James Alofs disappeared when he was at the top of his game without any warning at all. He stopped posting on social media, turned off his comments, and stopped talking to people. A guy who used to hang out in the snowy woods all the time, sharing everything about his life away from the city, was now just old videos and people trying to guess what happened. The quiet came out of nowhere. His fans started to worry. What could make someone who brought people together just leave so completely? The clues that seemed random at first started to make sense, and the real story behind him leaving was nothing like what people thought it was. He became famous all around the world when he was on The Chinese Bachelor in 2012, where he got everyone's attention by asking a Chinese girl to marry him on TV. The show was talked about a lot in Canadian newspapers, making James the most well-known Canadian on Chinese TV back then. After that, his acting work took off really fast, being in movies like The Mound Box, Rune of Blood, and Odd On. On top of acting, James has also jumped into helping the environment by trying to change laws in Ontario and China. On Chinese social media websites, he has more than 300,000 fans for stuff about protecting wildlife and fighting against building roads and things that hurt forests. He has spoken up against Highway 413, joined a podcast about protecting nature and animals, and has shown up at 8 environmental meetings since 2021. By the end of 2023, he had moved to a 40-acre piece of land in the middle of Ontario, where he started living off the grid, building his own log cabin, collecting rainwater, living in the forest far away from the city and the websites he was famous on. At the same time, he started his Wild Homestead YouTube channel, showing his whole journey from moving onto the land, building a house, surviving winters, to living on his own without help. For me, next log's up on the end. For the passes now on the width section, I'm not liking the diameters of any of this change wasn't because of work problems or personal drama. The facts show it was something he chose to do. James has moved away from busy websites to focus on longer, less popular stuff like YouTube and podcast shows. He's changed what he wants to do with his life and what he wants to share. The change isn't big and dramatic, but it's a clear move away from the big media world into the quieter places. If you look at James Alof's life before and after 2023, the difference is not just where he lives or what he posts. It is how he talks to his fans. He went from making stuff to be famous to sharing to write down his journey, from talking about world problems to hundreds of thousands of people. He chose to talk about building a house with his hands to people who are really interested in being independent in nature. Wild Homestead is not a brand made to get lots of views. It's like a digital diary of a guy starting life over. A slow, deep, real way of living in the wild. Since late 2023, James Alofs has been recording his experience of living off the grid on 40 acres of Ontario forest. The first videos had no catchy names, no flashy cover pictures, no special effects. He just set up a camera and filmed himself building a roof, cutting wood, making a stove, checking for animal traps, and dealing with lots of snow around the tent. The whole project is built around 3 main ideas: living on your own, learning to survive, and staying connected with nature as part of the environment. James doesn't buy a ready-made cabin or pay workers. He digs the foundation, connects the wood, builds a roof. Every step is recorded in videos going from 30 to over 60 minutes long. Topics go beyond building to harder stuff like solar power systems, how to keep warm with a titanium heater, getting maple sap for syrup, and dirt management ways to help more plants and animals grow. By the end of 2024, James' YouTube channel had gone past 100,000 followers, with people watching and commenting way more than usual. While other similar channels have to constantly make content, run ads, or look for sponsors to keep going, James has kept his setup simple, slow, but steady work without needing other companies. His followers don't come for a perfect look, but for a feeling of a real, unplanned life story. Besides YouTube, Instagram is the only website James uses where he posts short clips of his work progress and the natural views around the cabin. People who followed him for a long time from China, Canada, or the US might see a big change. He used to always update TikTok and Twitter with environmental stuff, but now he only has 2 channels: YouTube for telling stories and Instagram for posting updates. Cutting back on websites is not running away, but a plan of focusing to stay away from things that distract him. Another big thing is how James keeps Wild Homestead away from trying to make money off his content. There are no asks for donations, no online classes, no products he gets paid to sell. He doesn't talk about plans for a big brand or building a fan group. Everything is about the process of living his life, taking back land, building homes, getting used to the weather, and protecting local nature. This is a personal project shared with everyone, not a fan-driven movement. With this style, Wild Homestead doesn't try to sell stuff, but still gets real interest from people watching. Most of the viewers come from Canada, the US, and Europe, where the off-grid movement is growing. They leave comments asking for instructions, comparing stories, and sometimes just thanking him for being so real. You can hear the wind blowing through the wooden door. In a world with way too much information online, James' ability to keep Wild Homestead small, focused, and not trying to sell stuff stands out. It's a living, breathing project that's written about regularly, not chasing trends, not selling answers, not looking for approval, and that makes it more real than most marketing-driven homesteading projects out there. Rumors and mix-ups. Since mid-2024, many YouTube videos have been using guessing titles about James. Words like disappearance, shocking truth, and mystery behind Wild Homestead have been showing up. These videos often use thumbnail pictures cut from James' original videos with dramatic voices talking over them, but the content doesn't have specific proof. Some even change quotes or hide quotes that showed up in his official videos to make sensational stories. The truth is, James has kept posting Wild Homestead YouTube videos steadily, putting up new videos each month as he records the next parts of his journey, finishing the cabin roof, testing the solar system, cleaning the water for winter use, planting shade trees, and setting up wildlife camera traps around the land. There's nothing showing that he's planning to stop or take a break from the project. Besides YouTube, James makes and hosts the Wild Ontario podcast, which comes out weekly. The latest shows cover familiar topics: Ontario nature, the danger of forest bugs stopping the spread of oak fungus, and how climate change affects birds that migrate. James has not only kept putting out shows on time, but has also added more topics to connect the reality of homesteading to bigger environmental problems. Reddit, a website where some fans have been talking about the project, has seen posts asking questions about money, surviving long-term, and the timeline for building the cabin. One big post in July 2024 asks how James will pay for the homesteading costs without any clear sponsorship or deals with companies. But most of the comments are positive, guessing that James may be living off money from YouTube and podcasts, plus savings from his old career in acting and business. James keeping quiet about his personal life, from his relationship status to where exactly his land is to the details of his money, is one of the reasons that has led to people saying he disappeared. But in reality, this is the way he has done things from the start, sharing his journey, not his personal life. This same approach has never changed. He has never made his private life public. So the fact that he has not talked about it since then is not a sign of anything weird. It's also worth knowing that James has not replied to the rumors. He has not posted an explanation, commented on any YouTube videos asking about him, or showed up on any big media websites to explain himself. This has let rumors spread, even without new facts to prove it. But thinking about how James has handled content since his media career, staying quiet when there's wrong information is not weird. The problem here isn't that James is trying to hide anything. It's that he doesn't work on the modern internet schedule. He doesn't have to update all the time or reply to every rumor to keep up his image. What he shares is clearly his choice. A homesteading YouTube channel, an environmental podcast, an Instagram account used for recording progress. A smart step back. After years in the acting and media world, and then a career as someone who speaks up with hundreds of thousands of followers in China, James has seen the other side of being famous, getting tired of managing your image, the pressure to stay up to date, and a feeling of losing control over his own content may be what made him want to live off the grid. Moving to homesteading wasn't just about changing where he lived, it was about completely changing how he set up his life, both physical and digital. While James chose to keep only YouTube, podcasts, and Instagram, He also got rid of websites that were fast-paced and needed constant posting to stay popular. TikTok, Twitter, and other high-energy social media websites were no longer part of what he used by the end of 2023. This let James control the speed of sharing, caring about quality over how much he posts. Money-wise, choosing to live off the grid doesn't mean low costs. Some followers have asked how he pays for the cabin, solar equipment, machines, transportation, and winter needs. James has kind of admitted that buying the land at first left him owing money. Even though since the Wild Homestead channel went past 100,000 followers and has lots of people watching and commenting, the chance of making a steady income from video content has become more clear. YouTube, when kept up consistently and done the right way, is a real and lasting way to make money. With a loyal group of watchers, lots of watch time, and content that doesn't break policies, James is totally able to keep making enough money to run his homestead at a basic level without outside money. The Wild Ontario podcast also makes extra money through where it's posted in ads, letting him keep sharing content without needing large media relationships. Choosing to stay private doesn't mean giving up on connecting. James still replies to video comments, answers audience questions on his podcast, and shares new photos through Instagram stories. But instead of spreading his message across lots of places, he's keeping it all inside his own space enough to keep a small but close community. This not only saves time, but also makes less pressure to always be online, something he's lived with for years in the acting world. James' privacy, including where exactly his homestead is, his relationship status, and his personal schedule, is nothing new. From the very start of Wild Homestead, he set up a clear line between his personal life and his survival journey. What he shared was strictly only what was related to survival tricks, experiences with nature, and environmental problems. Totally nothing personal. This honesty created a safe space between him and people being too curious about his life. A less noticed but powerful reason in James' decision to cut back his online time is the weather and living conditions where he lives. Living off the grid in Ontario, especially during the winter with its heavy snow, ice, and temperatures that can drop to minus 30 degrees, takes a lot of time and physical energy to keep basic life going. Cutting wood, keeping a fire going, checking the system, and dealing with frozen water all need your full attention. There's no room for a packed media schedule. In that situation, choosing to pull back from the crowd is a smart choice to save energy, stay focused, and keep the homesteading way of life that he is living. This is not a marketing trick to create distance to get attention. It is a way for him to change his lifestyle to match the goal of living in a way that lasts both in body and mind. James is not alone in this trend. Many in the homesteading community are using a style of only sharing some things where people only make public what is really useful without turning their personal journey into something to sell in a digital media world where anything can become content. Keeping some of it private is rare and necessary. Quiet Impact Wild Homestead is a great place to learn from a technical standpoint. It not only shows how to build a cabin from nothing, but also gives hands-on experience in dealing with extreme living conditions, designing the right energy systems, and keeping yourself alive without the help of outside stuff. People who have been watching from the beginning can see the progress with each video, each step of building, each change to a colder than expected winter, and the challenges of trying out new ways. Beyond the technical side, there's something else James shares more clearly than anything else: the thoughtful choice of how to live. While a lot of today's homesteading content is made because people need engagement, James keeps a slow, honest, and lasting pace. He doesn't try to say everything at once. Each video focuses on a specific part of the journey. There are no flashy headlines,